We're going to work on lessons 16 through 18. We're going to add and subtract fractions. We're going to add and subtract fractions where we have 3 of them at a time. And then we're also going to subtract fractions using improper fractions. So we're going to subtract from a whole number, and then you're going to end up with an improper fraction that you'll change to a mixed number. So that may sound like a lot, but a lot of it will go together, kind of flow right into each other. So you are going to need a page that looks like this. It says problem set 16, and the back says 17. And then you'll have a page that you work on your own. You're going to need this. You can use the fraction strips that are cut up if you want. I'm going to just show you on this one. I won't be writing on the paper. I'll be writing it on the whiteboard, but I'll tell you exactly which one we're on so you see that, okay? And so we're going to be adding and subtracting fractions that have the same denominator. If they have the same denominator, all you're doing is just simple adding and subtracting, okay? So if you look on problem set 16, starting with letter A, they're using the words. So they use 2/4 plus 1/4. So find on here the strip that is split up into fourths, okay? Now, I don't have any beans out because I can't put them on and show you at the same time. They'll fall off, but you can use a marker, you can just use your finger, you can use mental math, or you could put a bean on each one that you need, okay? So it gives us 2/4. So all I'm gonna do is mark off 2/4. Do that quickly. A bean, mental math, or mark it with your marker. And then what are we adding? 1/4. How many fourths do we have? 3/4. Okay, that's as simple as it is. As long as they have the same, sorry, I'm trying to write down the answer you're writing down. As long as they have the same denominator, all we're doing is simple adding and subtracting on the top. All right, so I want you to do the next one, 4/5 plus 3/5. Mark it on your sheet, find the fraction strip that has the fifths. Mark off 4 of them. And then this is where you may need the cut up fraction strips, yep. You're going to add 3 more of them, okay? So, sorry, I'm trying to find mine. Might have to hold it on next to it. Okay, so add 3 more of them. 1, 2, wrote on myself, 3. Now, how many do I have total? Just tell me how many fifths I have. 7 fifths, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is write that down. I know it only gives you 1 line, but we're gonna write it like this. The way they have it written out. You really don't write fractions like that very often, but you'll see that in word problems. They might write the fraction, they may write it as words, okay? Now that we have 7/5, I want to look at 2 ways, I showed you one yesterday, to change these type of fractions. So 7/5, what kind of fraction do we call that? Improper, because the numerator has more than the denominator, okay? So I can look at this and see I can divide. 5/5 makes 1 whole. And then how many fifths do I have left over? 2/5, okay? So underneath, I've already erased it. Underneath where you wrote 7/5, I want the word 7/5. I want you to write the fraction 7/5. Now, we just did the visual model, so we know that that equals 1, and there's 2/5 left over. You know from what I said yesterday is that you can divide that. 7 divided by 5. 5 goes into 7 1 time, and there's 2 left over. There's one other way that we can do it. We can do number bonds, okay? So this is more of the mental math. So it may be good to try this a couple of times and see if it helps you to quickly do the mental math of it. How many fifths would you need to make one whole? Remember, one whole means that the numerator and the denominator have the same number. So you'd need 5 of them. So write that down. 5 fifths. And how many would be left? 7 minus 5 is 2. 2 fifths. 5 fifths and 2 fifths equal 7 fifths. And you know, circle that one, that equals 1. So this is 1 and 2 fifths. It's just another way of turning that improper fraction into a proper fraction. Okay? So I want you to try on number 5. You're going to add them, so it's simple addition. 2 eighths plus 5 eighths. You're going to add them, and I want you to turn that into a mixed number. Okay, so if you need the visual models, do it there, and you can use that as your answer. And then try and look at it and see, can I take that improper fraction and turn that into a mixed number using number bonds? Okay, once you do that one, and do letter B, 4 twelfths plus 5 twelfths. All right, so pause the video, do that, ask questions as you need to, and then come back and check them. All right, I got a little tiny bit ahead of myself because there were no improper fractions in there. It's just simple math. Because it has the same denominators, you can just go right across. 2 plus 5 equals 7, so it's 7 eighths. 4 plus 5 equals 9, so it's 9 twelfths. All right, that's just simple adding. You can do the same thing with subtraction. There's some subtraction ones on the back, but those ones are coming from 1. So I don't want to do those ones quite yet, but let's just try one quickly. Write it off maybe to the side here if you have any room, or turn it on the side here. And I just want to show you, okay? So let's do 7 eighths minus 3 eighths. Okay, write that down. It's the same as just simple subtraction. If they have the same denominator, all you're doing is going on your eighths. If you need a visual, I need 7 of them. Okay, I have 7 eighths, and I'm taking away 3. 1, 2, 3. How many do I have now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I have 4 eighths. That's what my answer equals. All right, it's simple subtraction. That's it. All right. Okay, so let's work on number 6. They did letter A for you. They had 3 fifths. You don't have to write anything because they have it. 3 fifths plus 4 fifths, and you know that that equals 7 fifths because 3 plus 4 is 7. Okay. Now, if you did that on the visual model, this is the same as letter B at the top that we did. You'll see that it makes one whole, and there were how many left over? 2 fifths. And they're making the number bonds. Well, what makes that one whole? Having the numerator and denominator the same, so 5 fifths. And then 7 minus 5 is 2. 2 fifths left over. All right, so we're going to do letter B and C together. I'm going to practice these. So letter B, look at that one. That is 4 fourths. We already know that that's what? 1, right? I'm not going to show you the visual model every time, but you can pause the video if you need to. You can use the visual model, like in between while I talk or while I'm writing mine down. If you need to, mark it off quickly on the visual model. Get your fraction strip and the full sheet and use those, okay? Check first to see that the denominators are the same. 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 fourths, okay? Now, I can quick do the division. I can use mental math. I can use the number bonds. Today we're going to use the number bonds, but if your strategy works better, if you need to use just the visual, if you're using the division, that's okay. Remember, the division looks like this, 7 divided by 4. You can do that. I'm just not going to do every strategy today. Today we're going to do the number bonds. So how many fourths will make up a whole when they're even? Same on the numerator and denominator, 4 fourths. What's 7 minus 4? 3 fourths. I know that this is 1, and then what do I have left over? 3 fourths. All right? I want you to pause just for a second and ask any questions that you may have before we go on to letter C. Okay? All right, look at letter C. We're doubling 6 nines plus 6 nines. Are the denominators the same? If they're the same, then just add across the numerators. 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 nines. And remember, you can use your visual model to see, how do I turn this into a mixed number? A mixed number has a whole number and a fraction. Okay? So what would I need out of 12 nines to make one whole? 9 nines. Okay? 12 minus 9, what do I have left over? 3. That's how many extra there are. And if you use the visual model, you'll see that really quickly. So 9 nines is 1. And how many are left over? 3 nines. This is the mixed number, 1 and 3 nines. Okay? And one thing I'm not sure that I mentioned before that I want you to hear, you probably just heard me say it, but maybe you didn't notice it. When we say a whole number, like, I'm just making this number up. This has nothing to do with the problem. Like, let me use one. Read me that number, 137. We're very careful not to use the word and. Well, in fractions, we do use the word and because we're telling you we have a whole number and part of another number. And when we get further, we'll realize that that and is the decimal. 1 and 3/10. These two equal each other. You don't have to understand why yet. What I want you to understand today is that this space in between, we use the word and. 1 and 3/10. 1 and 3 nines. All right? Okay, so let's do letter D. I want you to pause the video. I want you to do letter D and then check it with me. And then I'm going to give you a few more just to do on your own. So you have 7/10 plus 6/10. Pause the video, do that, and then check back with me. All right, let's check letter D. 7/10 plus 6/10 equals 13/10. And then to make a whole, we have 10/10. That makes one whole. 13 minus 10 was 3/10. So it's 1 and 3/10 is our answer. Interesting that it was the same as the one I made up. I didn't even notice that. All right, I want you to do letters E and F. Do those on your own. If you have questions, you're going to ask quickly before you really get started, or if you get stuck in the middle of it. But do letters E and F, and then quick check those answers. All right, let's check letter E. 5/6 plus 7/6. 5 plus 7, because we have the same denominator, is 12. And this one was a little bit different. Okay, if I get one whole, 6/6. 12 minus 6 is 6. Add another 6/6. So there's 1. There's another one. 1 plus 1 is 2. That was 2 whole. All right, and look at this one. 9/8 plus 5/8. The denominator is the same, so I'm just adding across. 14/8. 8/8 made my one whole. 14 minus 8 is 6. That made an extra 6/8. So 1 and 6/8 was my answer. All right, I want you to do number 7 totally on your own again. I'm just going to quickly tell you what the answers are on there. It says use a number line to model your answer. Now, you can use a number line, and this is the only way I would tell you, like for sure you need to use it on a test if you weren't allowed to use the fraction strips. Okay, so any test we do in class, you'll be able to use the fraction strips. On the state test, I still have to check on that. I'm gonna guess no, but if you're able to use it, then it would be there. But what you could do if you need a visual model is draw the number line for it. I think that it's extra work while we have these fraction strips, but it's totally up to you whether or not you're going to do that. Remember, it's just a strategy. So I would use the fraction strips and really just the mental math, because they're the same denominators. So check those really quickly, and then we're going to do 2 other things quickly before you work on your own. All right, let's check them. Letter A, 7/4 minus 5/4. Just simple subtraction. They have the same denominator. 7 minus 5 is 2, and my denominator stays the same, 2/4. All right, here we have 5/4 plus 2/4. 5 plus 2 equals 7/4. We're going to divide them up. 4/4 made 1. 7 minus 4 is 3. 3/4 equals 1 and 3/4. All right, so we're going to practice using 3 fractions. Now, on our practice sheet, we don't have any of those. So on the page that you are going to work on, there are some. Trying to decide. If it's not too much of a mess, pause and grab that page. It starts with problem set 18. If not, and just do them with me. Like use your whiteboard marker and do it on the side here. And then you can do it on your own when it's your turn. We're just going to do a couple because they're the exact same thing. Okay, it's just adding the same. Like, what's 2 plus 4? Well, that's 6 over the same denominator. Okay, well, now we're going to put 3 of them in there. You've done that before. What's 2 plus 4 plus 3? 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 3 more is 9. You'll put it over the denominator and decide, hey, how do I make this into a mixed number? That's it. Okay, so if you're looking at it, we're looking at letter A. We'll do the one it says. If you don't have it, you're writing 2/5 plus 3/5 plus 1/5. On the page, it already gives you partial answer. Check first. Do they all have the same denominator? If they do, it's just simple addition across the top. 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 1 more is 6/5. Do the number bond. How many did it need to make one whole? 5/5. 6 minus 5 is 1, so 1/5. So the answer is 1 and 1/5. Now, one of the things to notice is, as you looked across, you might have said, hey, 2 plus 3 is 5. I know that's a whole. You could have just done that, whether you put parentheses or you did like a little number bond right there. Hey, that right there, that's 5/5. That equals 1. And then there's one more, which is 1/5. Can you hear my dog? She thinks she's little. Well, not that little, but she's little, and she thinks that she's a guard dog. So she's starting to, she hears something. All right. Either way, I would have got the same answer. But if you're seeing something, hey, I already see one whole, then write it down. All right, let's do letter B on that one. If you don't have it out, it's 3/6, write that down, plus 1/6, plus 3/6. When you look at it, do you see anything that you would want to start with? I see well, first of all, we know, check denominators, they're the same. But I see a 3 plus 3. What's 3 plus 3? 6. You already know that. So 6 over 6 would be a 1, right? So I might do it like this. Hey, that's 1, or 6/6. Okay? And then 1 plus 1/6 is 1 and 1/6. Okay? Very simple. It's just regular adding because we have the same denominators. We started with the really easy part because I want you to see it's very simple. If it's not simple yet in your mind, then you need to be using this. If you don't like having to erase it all the time or the black mark it leaves, use beans where you can put them on quickly and take them off quickly to show what fraction you have. All right, last one, let's do letter C. There is 5/7 plus 7/7 plus 2/7. Check to see, do they all have the same denominator? They all do. So let's leave it. What do you see to start with? I already see 7/7. I know that that is what? 1. Well, that was a 1. That was supposed to be like a line down, like a number bond, but I don't need the other side, right? But I can see that's 1. And then here, I have 5 plus 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. That's 7/7. That equals another 1. So now I have 1 here and 1 here. What's 1 plus 1? 2. I have 2 whole. If you use your fraction strips, you can see that. All right, so I want you to pause to see if you have any other questions. Oops, almost made everything go flying. Pause to see if you have any other questions. Get those answered, and then come back with the back side of the practice page. One side said 16. We're going to be on 17. We're going to look at subtracting from a whole number. Okay, so find that and be ready. All right, we're going to subtract fractions from a mixed number. Okay, so we're going to have one whole and some extra, and then we're going to subtract from them. So they've done letter A for you. At first, it can be a little bit confusing. It's not confusing, they just showed you in 2 different ways. And sometimes when they put all of that out, you have to figure out, hey, are they going across? Are they going down? So the first thing we're going to start with is visual. Let's look at that first, okay? So I want you to find 1/5 on here and find your fraction strips, all right? So it tells you that you have 1 2/5. So we know where on the fifths. Even though it says 1 whole, you're going to look at your next fraction. The fraction is 2/5, so we know that's the denominator we're using. So I need to have 1 whole here across my fifths, and I need to have 2 more. Okay, so you have to bend yours or however you're going to do it. See if I can hold all of it together. 2/5 like this. All right? So when I look at it, how many fifths do I actually have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 fifths. Now all I have to do is subtract how many? 4 fifths. Just mark them off. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm taking away. How many do I have left? 1, 2, 3 fifths. Okay? That's the visual model of it. And that's exactly what you're doing. Okay, so let's look at how they did it. They said they want you to show it 2 different ways. And I'll show it to you. But looking at your visual model, that 1 whole, what is that? It's 5 fifths. And that's what they put on the number bond. So they said, hey, you have 1 2 fifths. Well, that means you have 5 fifths, which is what we saw in here, and you have 2 fifths more. And then all you had to do was subtract 4 fifths. So the way that they did it, it showed you right here. Right here. This 1 is 5 fifths. We saw that. And it's 2 fifths. So they want you to show this 2 different ways. I'm not so big on the 2 different ways. I just want you to find the way that really matters to you. Okay? The one that you go, I get that. And I want you to be able to do things in multiple ways. But when we're just beginning, sometimes having 2 ways to do it is too hard. The whole point is, can you see what they're doing? And can you find a way to add it together or subtract it together? So what they did was they said, hey, we said this is 5 fifths and 2 fifths. They wanted to add that. So they said 5 fifths plus 2 fifths equaled, when we took out our whole visual model, we counted them, there were 7 fifths, right? So that's the first thing you see there. 5 fifths plus 2 fifths equals 7 fifths. And then they subtracted 7 fifths, there goes the guard dog. 7 fifths minus 4 fifths, which was right here. And then just subtract across. 7 minus 4 is 3 out of 5, 3 fifths. All right? That's exactly what we did using the visual model. Let me show you the other one that they did. So they did it like, here's one way, and then here's another way. I'll show you the other way that they did it. They still had their number bond out here. They had 5/5 plus 2/5. So they just subtracted 4/5 from each of them. They said 5/5 minus 4/5 equals 1/5. Okay? Or not from each of them. I guess you can't subtract from each. And then they said, oh, you have this extra here. Now add that together. 1/5 plus 2/5 equals 1 plus 2 is 3. Now, we still got the same answer. Up here, this is our visual answer. We still got the same answer, but to me, this one can get confusing. What do I subtract? What do I add? Where the other way, we were just adding them together and then subtracting. You almost see the visual. I'm going to erase this part. Let me erase this circle so you don't get confused. You said, hey, this is 1 right here, okay? Hey, I see that right now I just have 7/5. Subtract what they gave me. 7/5 minus 4/5, okay? They're the exact same thing. I just think it's a little bit easier to see the visual here. If the other way makes more sense to you, then use that, all right? All right, let's start on letter B. You can pause to do the visual as you need it. So B is 1 3/6 minus 4/6. Okay, now let me show you something. If this had been minus 2/6, because these could go together, hey, 3 minus 2, I can do that, right? Then it would just be 1, and then 3 minus 2 is 1/6. It'd be 3 and 1/6. Okay, but this is like borrowing. So think of it like when we have larger numbers. Because I can't take 4 away from 3, I can't do 3 minus 4. I have to borrow. I have to turn this 1 into a fraction. So let's use a number bond. Pause and do the visual if you need to, so you can see. Using the 6, 1 whole on the bar would be how many 6? 6, 6, okay? It'd be all, let me erase this one from the 5th. It'd be all 6 of these, correct? It'd be 6, 6. And then I'd have to use the other bar to show 3 more 6. So how many 6 would I have total? 6 plus 3 is 9. I'd have 9 6. And then I need to subtract what they have. Minus 4 6. Because it's the same denominator. 9 minus 4 is 5. My answer is 5 6. And if you use the visual and took those 4 6 away from the 9 we had to start with, you'd see it's 5 6. All right, let's do letter C. Be sure to pause and ask questions if you have them, or pause and do the visual. Sometimes the visual will make it just go, oh, these aren't just numbers I'm writing down. I get it. I see it. So do letter C. We have 1 6/8 minus 7/8. Okay, so look at it right here. Let's see if I can find my eighths real fast. Probably not, because they said real fast. All right, if we're on the eighth, I have 1 right here. What is that? How many eighths is that? 8, right? There's 8 eighths. So put this down here, 8 eighths. And then using my fraction strip, I'm going to have 6 more of them, right? So that's my number bond, is 8 eighths plus 6 eighths. And then on your visual, you're just counting that up. So we already know to have 1, we have 8 eighths, and then we have 6 more. So keep counting, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. How many eighths do we have? We have 14 eighths. So we're just writing that down. Subtract the 7 eighths. Okay, so using your visual, you could take those off. We had 6 extra eighths over here. Well, I can take all 6 of those off, and a 7th one right there. How many do I have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 eighths left. And that's my answer. All right, so I want you, that was letter C, I want you to do letter D and E on your own, and then check back. I won't be able to fit both of them on one whiteboard, so I'll do D, and then I'll have to erase and do E. So if it's coming easy, do both of them, and then check back. If you need a little bit more help in between, just do letter D and check back, because there'll be a pause in there before I do letter E. All right, letter D, it was 1 1/10 minus 7/10. So if you did the visual, you would see that that 1 was 10/10. And then there was 1/10 left over. They told you that. 10/10 plus 1/10 is 11/10. Subtract our 7/10 because they have the same denominator. 11 minus 7 is 4. It's 4/10. All right? All right, let's look at letter E. If you didn't already do it, pause the video and do that. Otherwise, let's check it. All right, let's check it. 1 3/12. How do we break that up? Because it has the denominator of 12, we know 1 is 12/12, and then there's 3/12 left over. 12 plus 3 is 15, so there's 15/12. That's my improper fraction because that's a mixed number. Okay, minus 6. Because they have this, or 6/12, because they have the same denominator, it's just 15 minus 6 is 9. So our answer is 9/12. All right? So if you're having trouble doing those, I want you to keep using the visual model. Keep using your fraction strips and then the cut up ones in order to show what's more than 1, what's a mixed number, okay? Or an improper fraction. Practice with those. You have a sheet there that you're going to practice on. I want you to practice them. I want you to do the visual as you need it. If you're like, I've got this, I know what to do, then keep going. But if you're getting them wrong, or you're just doing some steps and you're not totally seeing it in your head, then use those visual models to do it. And then work on the lessons in Zearn.